Alright, in today's video, I'm going to walk over landing page optimization, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, and essentially how to get better conversion rates out of your landing page. Now, this is an example of essentially a template we use to build landing pages. I'm going to go over all of this, but first I kind of want to go over a little bit of the theory and what my thoughts are behind how we optimize landing pages. Now, the first and foremost thing is I always come back to Stephen Krug or Krug, I can't pronounce his last name, but his book called Don't Make Me Think. And that's essentially what you want to do with the landing page is don't make the user of the landing page think. The more they have to think, the more likely they are to leave. The more distractions you add in, the more likely they are to have an experience cognitive overload, which is essentially too much information, and they say to themselves, listen, there's a simpler solution somewhere else, I'll leave. And then now you've just wasted, the cost per click to get that user to your landing page, and you're not going to get a conversion out of it. So here's some things to keep in mind when optimizing a landing page. Always make your offer very clear. Do not sugarcoat it. Make it simple so the user understands it. If you sell pool installation, put pool installation services in Toronto, pool installations in New York City, stuff like this, very simple. And then as you want to optimize the landing page further, you can start adding in more creative headlines, but first and foremost, make it clear, make it simple. And make sure it aligns with your ad copy. If you have an ad that says furnace installation, and then when the person comes to your landing page, it talks about, AC repair, it, the message doesn't match. They're going to get confused. They're going to be more likely to leave, and it's going to negatively affect your conversion rate. So make sure, again, it's simple and it aligns with the ad and the ad copy you've written. Another thing I like to do is highlight the important stuff. So say the goal of the landing page is to get as many calls as possible, but you also have the email inquiry. So I'll take the example of here. What I would do is I'd highlight this with like a nice background blue and say that the goal of the campaign is calls. We'll highlight the call button. And then behind here, we'd put the lettering in blue and then the background is white. So it's not as noticeable and it's not as much contrast between the back of the page and the front of the page. Um, that being said, don't over highlight everything. If you're going to make contrasting colors and make one thing pop, make sure it's just one thing. Don't make the entire thing pop, because if everything pops and it looks all bright and colorful, nothing really pops and there's no real um, direction for where you want your customer to go, and the customer needs to know where they have to go. They read the headline, they go, okay, this I'm going to get, pool installation. They have a 2-year guarantee, they have 24/7 contact, they have, award winning, and they want me to call them. It's a simple, clear process. They don't have to think, and at the end of the day, all they have to do is call you. They don't have to look for a whole bunch of different contact options, which is nice, and it makes the experience much more enjoyable. The next thing, like I said, design, keep it calm, easy on the eyes. Don't use pink, purple, black, and yellow. If you use all these colors together, it's going to be really hard on the eyes. They're not going to know where to go, and their eyes are just going to jot around the page, and they're going to be confused, and they're more likely to leave. And again, you don't know when the people are really viewing this or where they're viewing this, so it might be dark in the room, and if they just get a massive blast of light in their eyes, they're not going to be super happy about it. So make sure keep it calm, nice blues, whites, like easy color on the eyes. Don't use super bright like a neon yellow. Maybe that could be for your call to action button, but don't make the entire page like neon pink or neon orange. It's not going to work well. Um, Another thing is keep everything above the fold. And essentially what this means is everything above here, this line here, is considered above the fold. So this part is above the fold. Anything below here is below the fold. So the most important stuff has to be above the fold. So if you are designing the landing page, the most important stuff has to be as soon as the customer comes onto your website, it has to be said. You can't say it in the bottom section of like down here. You have to say it up here. What do you do? Why should we pick you? And how do I get in contact with you? Is essentially what has to be explained first and foremost. And you have to provide reasons why they should pick you. And if you can do that, chances are you're going to get a decent conversion rate right off the bat, just because most people aren't ever going to go below the fold. Most people stick above the fold and they make their decision based on this. So it's very important to keep in mind. Keep the important stuff above the fold. First and foremost, don't make the user go searching for it. Give it to them right away. The next thing is scarcity. So sometimes I use this when we're trying to increase conversion rates. It can be done with certain organizations or certain products or services. It really depends on what your market is. I like scarcity tactics when it comes to pool installation, when it comes to really big products. That way you can get users to convert more quickly. If it's, HVAC, if it's plumbing, stuff like that, scarcity tactics don't really work all that well just because there's a lot of HVAC people out there, there's a lot of stuff out there. But if you have a very small market or a low amount of competition, scarcity tactics can work well. It can bump your conversion rates up. That being said, I don't always like using them. A/B test, if you see a better result with them, maybe use that, maybe not. Depends on your specific situation. But that's probably going to be the most controversial one here, scarcity tactics. But as we know, people do convert better when things are scarce. And if you legitimately only have 5 appointments left, or say 5 pools left to sell, use that. Tell the people that are looking on your website, listen, I only have 5 pools left, and like they're gonna go. So book an appointment, and we can see what we can do for you. It is more likely to make the convert and take action. So it's a good strategy. The next thing is keep your call to action buttons straightforward. I see this a lot with larger organizations, and there's a good example. I was looking online for an HVAC company, and they actually had 4 phone numbers for emergency contacts. So it was in the top right corner of the screen, you could imagine, is emergency contact number. So say I have an emergency, I got to contact them for furnace repair, and then they had 4 separate phone numbers on what to contact them. So it's like, which number should I pick? Like, it's so weird. Like, just put one. Don't put 4 of them, put one. So keep it simple. If it says you really want to think from the consumer's perspective, here is a good example. Get a free estimate, or get free estimate, get a free quote. You really want to think from the consumer's perspective. And you always want to put the words, I want to get a free estimate. I want to call now. I want to always be on the side of the consumer and think from their perspective. Don't think from your perspective. So don't put 8 emergency numbers. Don't put your fax number. Don't put, 10 different email addresses. Keep it simple. Don't over explain things. Don't get a free estimate today because we are awesome, blah, 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 blah. Don't make it long. Just get a free estimate. Keep it short and simple. You're going to do much better that way. Another thing is don't add like crazy amounts of calls to action. I generally like 1 or 2 at most. Anything more than that, you're really going to start making the customer think. And as we know, we don't want the customer to think. We want to keep it as simple as possible. And if you can do that, you're going to do a good job. That being said, you can add multiple calls to action, the same calls to action throughout the page. So say we have our phone number here and we really want phone numbers for this campaign. Let's say that. Down here below or in between services and testimonials, you could have call now as a button. And then at the very bottom of the page, again, call now. And that's fine. If it's the same call to action, the consumer gets, okay, they want us to call them. That's their main way of getting in contact with them. It makes sense. It's not going to make the customer think. If you have contact us with a phone number, email us, fax us, come to our location, like the more stuff you add, the more you make your customer think and the more likely they are to leave. So keep it simple. Don't add crazy amounts of calls to action. Another thing when actually optimizing the landing page is A/B test the headlines and then the copy. So the most important thing in your ad right away is one, I would say don't make the customer think, and then the second thing would be the headline. So as David Ogilvy said, 80% of the advertising budget should go to the headline because 80% of people look at the headline. And that's really where the money is. If you have a good headline, chances are you can get away with a lot of stuff you do incorrectly, just because the headline will make people convert. They say, yep, I see have a heating and cooling issue, or looking for service repair techs for your furnace, or HVAC company near me. They'll just read that and then they'll click to call. They won't read the rest. They don't really care. Maybe they're in a rush, right? And then after that, say you find a good headline, then I would suggest changing this around. So then you could put local HVAC techs, 24/7 service, um, certified award-winning company, guarantee 2-year guarantee, stuff like this, and then expand out, and then you could start A/B testing the copy. But always test the headline before you test the copy, or the main body of the paragraph, I should say, just because more eyes are going to be on the headline, and it matters more. Another thing is test testimonials. What is down here is just an example, but what I like to do is really find real social proof, and that's usually comes in the form of social media reviews. So if you can find Facebook reviews and then literally screenshot them, place them in here, it makes you build, it makes the company look so much more credible because these people are real. Chances are you didn't fake a Facebook review, even though it's not super difficult to do. It just doesn't look fake. It looks real. And people are going to believe that. And even if these are all real, let's say all these ones that are just typed in the actual landing page builder software for testimonials, they still look kind of fake. They don't look super real. But if you can use real proof, either from Google reviews, Facebook reviews, stuff like that, even Yelp, it looks so much more real, so much more credible. And if you compare that with the image of what you did, that generally is phenomenal. You'll get excellent results out of that, especially like if you run a company that is very visual, say pool installation. You can get the pool you built with the testimonial and maybe even the picture of the person with the Facebook review, and that looks just absolutely amazing. And more people are likely to convert on that because they can see real people and they go, okay, that person is in the same position I am, and that's what I want. And then I'm going to go with this company because of that. So really test and use as much credible social proof as possible. And also play with it too. Maybe sometimes the images help, maybe they don't. Switch it around, always test, go with what the data says. Another thing is move around certain sections. Uh, this can be done in collaboration with a heat map. So what I like to do is there's a lot of software out there, and essentially what a heat map does is it tracks the user and where they go on your landing page and what they do. So say you see your heat map, generally the first section is the most looked at because people just click on it. And then you see them skip testimonials and they just come down to services. Well, maybe you could flip services around with the testimonials, and that'll convert better because then people don't have to scroll all the way down to services. Or vice versa. Maybe the testimonials are important or more important, or the gallery is more important. And really figure out what is most important to your customer and then try to optimize for that. That being said, using a heat map is a fantastic way to find problems and really see with what your customers are looking for when they come to your page and where they're scrolling throughout to see what highlights they're looking for and what problem they really want to solve. Maybe it's like guarantees, or maybe it's testimonials or awards or stuff like that. And you could even build out a section just dedicated to that if you see a heat map and they're specifically going to a certain section of a certain service tab or whatever. Uh, my final recommendation is always A/B test everything. But that being said, test it one thing at a time. See if the results are good or negative, and then go from there. Don't test 400 different variables because then you won't know what changed and what's good and what's bad. But that being said, always A/B test everything. Go with what the data says. And if you do that, chances are you'll have a very good landing page. Now, to get into the actual Unbounce, and this is the landing page software I like to use, Unbounce. Uh, I'm just familiar with it, that's why I like it. This is a good template for, there's a lot of companies we use. We use one very similar to this for pool installation. We use one very similar to this for HVAC. This is a very, very good design. It's easy on the eyes, and it converts very well. That being said, we place your logo up here. Brand recognition is always good, especially if you have a lot of it. If you have a heating and cooling issue, that's a decent headline. You could change that around to, furnace repair techs on standby or something like that. I would expand this out, make sure it's more dealing with the customer's problem. So maybe, and two, it depends on your customer and the keywords you're targeting and your ad copy too. So keep that in mind. But you could do local HVAC techs, 2-year guarantee, award winning, certified installers, 30 years in business. Well, I wouldn't put 30 years in business, but stuff like that to really help and show the customer that you can solve their problem. The calls to action, these are good. I would have it pop up when you click the get a free estimate so you can submit your email and then your phone number so they can call you. I would usually use a call tracking number, usually through CallRail or a third-party tracking number, so you can track all of these calls. And then for the main picture here, I generally like to find a picture of the business owner or someone working in the business. That's a legitimate picture and it looks like a legitimate picture. Don't put stock photos. They don't work well. And people generally know their stock photos and they're going like, yeah, whatever. If you use a real image, chances are it's going to convert better. That being said, testimonials are very important. I like to rank them generally second, right after the above the fold part, your main section. Fill this in, give them enough social proof. Don't give them like hundreds of testimonials, but give them enough to make sure it looks like you're a reputable company and that you know what you're doing. Services is another good section you could add in, just showing your overview of what you do, how you do it, about this company, a brief overview of this company. I like putting in there just so it looks like a professional company, but I'd put this right at the end. If you have guarantees, if you have awards, I'd put them before this part, and then this is generally the last thing people generally care about. Um, so yeah, that's where I would put all this. That you can put the logo here again, 24/7 emergency service. That's nice too. And then at the very end, I generally have another call to action, which is the same as one of the first ones. So either it's the email inquiry or it's the phone number, just so people don't got to scroll all the way back up. And then our HVAC techs are on standby. Call now. Just another nice heading to get the customer to do what you want them to do. This is a very, very good landing page. I'll leave the link to it in the description if you want to look over it. If you want to use it, you're free to do that. Um, Other than that, this is essentially the landing page optimization and how we go about it. Remember, our guiding principle here is don't make me think. As the customer, you don't want to have to think on the landing page. You want to get your problem solved as quickly as possible with the least amount of effort. And chances are that's a very simple landing page design. So go with that. If you do all this, if you use this template, you go over these principles, you'll most likely have a very successful landing page and you'll have a very high conversion rate. That being said, that ends our video for today. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, leave them down in the comment section down below. I'd love to answer them. Other than that, you guys have a fantastic day and take care.